Welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to be seeing if the F-117 Nighthawk should be added to WarThunder, and if it is added, how will it perform and be balanced. We're also going to be predicting when this aircraft will be added to the game. Also make sure to go down in the comments down below and tell me how you guys think stealth will be implemented into the game and if it should be implemented into the game, because I am very curious to know. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Now the F-117 is strictly a bomber unless you include the Seahawk edition, which would be an air-to-air variant of the F-117 that is used for the Navy, and it would have carried AIM-120s. But it was never released, so all we have is the F-117 Nighthawk, which can only drop bombs. So this is strictly a bomber, even though it has the F designation for F-117, as in fighter. It is not a fighter, it is a bomber. Another thing to note is it could only carry 2 guided bombs, but we'll get to the munitions of this thing later. Now let's talk about this aircraft's stats and capabilities. Now they are nothing to write home about, but its stealth did carry this aircraft, because the stealth on this thing did a pretty good job at concealing it in the wars that it was in, resulting in only 1 combat loss, which is absolutely insane. So its maximum speed is 594 knots, which equates to Mach 0.92, which isn't that bad for a bomber, but it is quite slow compared to other aircraft. A lot of aircraft to catch this thing and kill it. Thing is, you gotta find it first, and I'll tell you how Gaijin's gonna balance that in a bit. But its thrust to weight is 0.40, so you're not gonna be pulling hard turns and dogfighting without bleeding this thing to death and falling out of the sky. So yeah, mostly you're gonna be wanting to bomb with this, unless you're really cheeky and you end up getting like a maneuver kill. But again, that's not gonna be what you're doing with this aircraft. It has a service ceiling of 45,000 feet, which is pretty good because you can drop the GBUs from that altitude, or around 30,000 would be the sweet spot. And its weapons are kind of lackluster because it can carry only 2 internal weapons, so it only has 2 hard points inside the internal weapons bay. You could carry the GBU-10, the Mark 84s, the BLU-109s, the BLU-116s, the GBU-12s, GBU-27s, GBU-31s, and the B-61 nuclear bomb, which I think Gaijin might use as the nuclear bomber when you get a certain amount of kills in Tank RB, which would be awesome. Can you imagine just a F-117 drops a nuke and obliterates your entire team? That'd be cool. So since this thing is stealthy, how would this perform in a WarThunder air-to-ground situation, or in Tank RB? Well, I think in Tank RB, this thing would dominate. It would destroy SAM sites, and again, you only get 2 GBUs. So you have 2 tanks to kill, which is pretty balanced in my opinion. I mean, you can't shoot the thing down with a SAM because it's going to be hard to track, unless Gaijin models stealth technology correctly. And I'll get to that in a second. So in Tank RB, I think this thing will do a pretty good job. In Air RB or Air Sim, this thing will probably be unseen for the most part. Of course, at certain angles it could be seen, or if the bomb bays are open. We'll get to that in a second on how Gaijin will model that. But again, this will probably bomb its target and head back to base, and it has a limited payload, so you're not going to be bombing much. Unless Gaijin adds stuff like strategic points such as radars or command centers, which I don't think we'll see for a while. Another thing to note is that the F-117 was made to go behind enemy lines and bomb strategic points. Like I said before, radars, command centers, SAM positions, stuff like that. It's made for like strategic surgical strikes. It's not made to do saturation bombing. With that being said, I think this aircraft could be pretty balanced in WarThunder, especially since it only gets 2 bombs, so you're not going to be doing too much damage to the map anyway. With that being said, how is the F-117 stealth going to be implemented into WarThunder? Well, the F-117 was shot down before, and this was due to a competent SAM site crew, and the F-117 had its bay doors open, and the angle at which the SAM was looking at the F-117 was from below, so it was directly looking at its belly, which isn't as stealthy as the front of the aircraft. Another thing to note is they engaged him within 5 miles, which is extremely close. So it's definitely possible to shoot this thing down in WarThunder, but it would have to be at a certain angle, like under it or behind it, or even a little bit above it, so you could detect this thing if you're smart. If you're playing the F-117 smart, you're probably not going to be running into players who probably run around the map and then bomb your target and then go back to base around the map stealthily. So with that being said, will Gaijin do this correctly? Will they add systems to where at certain angles your aircraft is stealthy and at certain angles it isn't? Or if the bomb bay opens, your aircraft is stealthy? Well, it's kind of hard to say because when radar was first added, it was very botched. So likely when stealth is first added, it won't be entirely or correctly done, but I'm certain Gaijin will fix that a couple patches after the aircraft is released. Speaking of release dates, when could we see the F-117 added to the game? Well, since Gaijin just announced that 4th generation aircraft are being added to the game, I could confidently say that I think the F-117 would be added to the game next year, December, or the year after that, because stealth is something pretty new and they would have to change a lot of radar mechanics in the game, and we need to get through the 4th generation aircraft first and flush them out before we start trying new stuff like stealth. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Like, share, and subscribe. Join the Discord down below, and take care, guys.